What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Jacob in Wisconsin here to talk some Green Bay Packers. And boy, oh boy, is the trade talk heating up on the old Twitter bird today. Let me tell you. A lot of conversation happening there and also here in the chat. Tim is on assignment. I don't know where he's at. He's on assignment somewhere, though. I'm sure it's way more important than what we're doing here. Emilio, however, or Jacob, I don't know, dude. Emilio seems to be disappearing here of lately. I'm just wondering if he might be hiding out somewhere. We'll see.
He's in the back of Mose Schroot's van. He's getting dropped off at the northern border.
That's exactly right. So we'll see. He may hop in here, man. He's been busy as his work's getting ready to ramp up too. We hit 67 down here today. I'm sure Knoxville is probably over 70. So it's getting warmer for sure. 2-0 for this. One day Jacob will be standing up because his butt will hurt, and we all know why. And somebody who normally doesn't watch the show just said, "I'm out of here."
I was going to say that could be interpreted a number of different ways there. 2-0 for this, but yeah.
All right. Let's go to the chat real quick. So Turtle says, Myles Garrett to the Pack, baby. Everybody's going, dang, is there a trade? Not yet. Okay, let's calm down. So Turtle says, package Jaire and a bag of chips. We should be all right. Yeah, if the Browns would do that, I'd be totally okay with just sending Jaire and a late round pick to get Myles Garrett. I don't think they're going to come off him that easy, right? Josh Martin says Myles Garrett can't be traded until after June 1st. The Browns are already over the cap by $30 million. They can't take a June 1st cap hit of $16 million if they traded him before June 1st. You guys know how I feel about this. I will respectfully disagree with Josh. You can make anything happen with the salary cap. You're right on the numbers. You're exactly right there. But they can free up that money like that to make that happen if they feel it's necessary. Again, I'm not sold that they feel that way, right? Josh Martin also says, I think Garrett will be a trade deadline candidate. So he's saying he thinks they hold on to Garrett until the trade deadline of next season. Me personally, probably not going to happen, He's either going to be traded this offseason or he may end up holding out. I don't see a situation, I could be wrong, where once you ask for a trade like this, Jacob, and we'll get into the exact letter that he wrote to the team and all that, you're putting pressure on the front office to get out. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to imagine they would carry Garrett all the way through week 7 or week 8, whatever it is next season. You know what I'm saying? What do you think about all that so far?
Man, the biggest kind of argument that I always go back to is one that you've kind of stapled into my brain, and it's, is he good or great? You don't overpay for good. In my opinion, Myles Garrett is a difference maker.
He's unbelievable.
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but like, for instance, Andy Watkins talks about, would you give up 2 first-round picks for Garrett? Would I give up 2 first-round picks in theory? No. Would I go back and give up, Devontae Wyatt or Stokes or, right, enter in these 2 players? Well, that's a different argument that is easily had, when you're a Monday morning quarterback in that situation. The thing is you guys know me. I always go back to, I want more picks. I don't like trading away guys. I don't like trading picks. I'm very frugal in that way. I love our draft and develop type of program that we've kind of usually been accustomed to over the last 30 some odd years. But we have talked about that we are just a piece away. It seems like all these years that we get so close, and then all of a sudden we lack that blue chip X factor that absolutely pulls us over the finish line. At this point in Jaire's career, if you were able to do a swap for Garrett and even give up what you would consider maybe some higher draft capital, I think I still would at this point.
Yeah, if the Browns were interested in Jaire Alexander, and like Jacob said, you have to give up an early pick and Jaire for Myles Garrett, I probably would. And what's interesting about Myles Garrett is, if I'm understanding it correctly, he's not going to be a whole bunch against the cap for the team that receives him, because they've already prorated and played the cash over cap game to keep Myles Garrett. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, if you're telling me you can give up Jaire Alexander and a 3rd round pick for Myles Garrett, I'd do it. I'd do it in a blink. Do I think the Browns are going to do that? No, I don't.
Yeah, because it's just right here, like Chris is talking about. Also, that comes with the the massive price tag that guy's gonna.
If he's wanting a contract, because he's still under contract, if I remember correctly. And heck, we might as well get into this while we're talking about it. Let's do that. Let me. I was going to share. Actually, let me run through Twitter real quick, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, let's do that. So here was the letter that Myles Garrett wrote. It says Myles Garrett has requested his trade. Here's his statement. As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning the Super Bowl, and that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man I am today. While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the road or on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It's always been to compete and win a Super Bowl. Says with that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. And of course, it's got his signature, his stamp there. So there's the official request. I thought it was classy, right? I thought it was something that he could have been hey, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. I thought it was, hey man, I really appreciate everything you guys have done for me type thing. And Myles Garrett's always been a classy dude when he's not bashing, Mason Rudolph over the head with the helmet, which was really odd, to be honest with you. It's like so out of character for Myles Garrett. At least that's the way I understood it. So we could talk a little precedent there, Tim or Jacob, that, hey, is he a bad apple? I don't think he is. Let's talk about the contract for a second and what we were just mentioning, right? And hopefully you guys can read this well enough here as we go. Yeah, Mason Rudolph started it. And the thing I didn't like about that whole situation was how he said Mason Rudolph dropped the ultimate racist comment, right? And that's what fueled it. But no one else on the field seemed to hear it, and the NFL Films mics didn't pick it up. That was a little odd to me. Like, how do we not have proof of that? But he said it was said to him. And then you had all of Mason Rudolph's teammates coming to his rescue, like, this dude ain't a racist. What are we even talking about? Like, other people, minorities that were talking about how Mason Rudolph was a good teammate. So anyway, let's talk about this contract, Jacob. This is going to get interesting because I'm going to try to get it to where you guys can somewhat read it, but I've got to be able to get it all on the page as well here. So you'll notice here in 2025, right, the year we're in, his base salary is only $1.2 million, right? Okay. His signing proration, there is none, but there's an option proration. Now, you guys remember there was a lot of this that went into Aaron Rodgers' contract where his agent, or actually Russell Wilson's agent, I played the clip. It was like the first year I was doing this pod. I played the clip of him saying, only the Packers and Aaron Rodgers truly know how that optional aspect of his contract works. So this here could be negotiated on the backside is the way I'm understanding. It depends on what's in the fine writing when it comes to an options aspect of a contract. But let's look at it from the Cleveland Browns standpoint, right, from their perspective. Their cap hit on the books, allocation, this is the accounting aspect for the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett, $19.7 million, right? But the dead cap attached is 36.2. Okay. So if they cut Myles Garrett outright or traded him, they're on the hook for $36.2 million. You're going, where does that come from, Clayton? Look at the voidable years. Okay. So he's still technically under contract through 2026. The Browns set this up so they could absorb his contract, and they're going to take the hit later on, meaning in 2027, there's a voidable year, 28, 29, and 30, they're voidable years. So the cap hit that's attached on those years as it sits right now, the allocation aspect of the contract is $37.6 million in 2027, 12.2 in 28, 8.4 in 29, and 4.7 in 30. So they were planning on him being here. That's why the Cleveland Browns, here's the other thing. The Cleveland Browns do not have to trade him. They could just say, you know what, bub, you can stay home and not get paid, or you're going to play for the Cleveland Browns. That could happen. Now, will they? I don't know. And to go back to Josh Martin's point, the way this is structured, it makes more sense for this to not happen until after June 1st, simply because you can now roll that mega cap hit into the following year if it's post June 1. I don't know if Myles would be excited about that, but the most likely scenario if he is traded would be post June 1, right? Or try to do some kind of restructure of the contract here in some way, shape, or form with the option. Again, the option is the big question mark there for me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand what that is, because there were so many people running victory laps about Aaron Rodgers and how much he Mr. $50 million quarterback. And I was on here going, that doesn't mean a damn thing. Right. And what happened? He went to the Jets and everybody was going, oh, all the cap experts were like, how did he take less money? They've been saying it the whole time, you knucklehead. You just don't want to hear it because you hate Aaron Rodgers. So anyway, when it comes to this contract, that's how it lays out. Now in 2026, $1.3 million salary, $19 million in option proration, and then you got the cap hit of $20.3 million with a dead cap of 21.4. So basically, if they kept him this year and then walked him off the books next year, meaning post June 1 or next year, like Josh was saying, you're going to just about break even on the cap. Now, in terms of can they come up with that extra money they need, Jacob, that difference between 19.7 and 36.2, yeah, they can come up with it. They can find it. It's going to kick the can way on down the road again. If it was any other franchise, I'd go highly unlikely, but the Browns are idiots. They are idiots with this stuff. They would do it in a heartbeat. Don't believe me. Look at how their quarterbacks played. Look at all the legal issues he faced, and look at the contract they gave him. That's all you need to know. So I'll pause right there. Any questions, comments, disagreements? What do you think about what we just covered there, man?
I guess I'm not great with the cap, but what makes more sense for the Packers side of it? Would they want to restructure? Would they try to have a new contract? Would they take over some of that money? Like what makes sense from Green Bay's perspective?
If I'm understanding this correctly, what would happen if Green Bay traded for him? Typically what carries over to the current team, and this is what happens with Cooper Kupp's contract or with the new team, would be this base salary and then the roster bonus. Now you'll notice there's not a roster bonus listed here, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm understanding correct, and again, we don't know exactly how the option proration works behind the scenes there, you're on the hook for $1.2 million. Now people go, oh, that's good, right? Awesome. That means the Packers, this is kind of like the Russell Wilson deal. Remember the Russell Wilson deal where he played pretty much a minimum contract, just about it? Because the Seahawks had leveraged it to where, hey, we're going to absorb a huge cap hit when we trade him. We'll get that out of the way the first year, and the team getting him, we're going to pay pennies on the dollar for him. That's what happened with Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. So if I'm understanding, let's assume the option proration is treated just like a signing bonus, and every bit of that goes straight to the Browns, and they can't get out of it, right? Think of it from the Browns' perspective now. Okay, he wants out. We don't have to trade him. We don't. And if he sits out, guess what? We get our money back. That's the way that works, right? Or at least a portion of it. So they could look at it as extra leverage on their part. Like if a team really wants him, look, but you're only getting $1.2 million against the cap here, right? That's all you're getting. If that's the case, and that option proration, let's just assume it's a signing bonus or what have you, then that's going to be extra leverage for them. Like we're going to need more draft capital than that. So now you're looking at a first or a second. Let's say it's 2 first-round picks, as some people were saying in here, right? I'm trying to think of who it was. Josh Martin. I would give 26 and 27 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. Okay, he is 30 years old, guys. 30 years.
Yeah, 30 that's a little rich there for me.
It is. But I'm going to defend Josh Martin with the argument you just made, Jacob. Would you trade Devontae Wyatt and Lucas Van Ness for Myles Garrett?
Yes, unfortunately.
You only get him for 2 years, but yeah, that might be the missing piece, right? That's what you're trading with those first-round picks. People, I love the argument that people come up with when you mention that is like, well, you're taking the best or the worst-case scenario, the best-case scenario. Well, you've got to assume. That's why when we talked about trading a second and a third-round pick for Max Crosby, I said, cool, so you'd be willing to give Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft? And everybody was like, whoa, right? Those picks turn into players, guys. And you may miss. I understand that. But
is this in the realm of possibility? Too old for this? Is this year's first and Kenny for Garrett?
I'll tell you this, man. With Kenny's contract, he makes sense for a post June 1. If you're going to, right? If you go pre-June 1, it's like, oh, boy, that's an ugly look. It would, but again, put yourself in the Browns' shoes. Would you make that trade? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're basically saying you're going to eat, if you're the Browns, right? And let's just call it $20 million. But let's say you're going to eat $16 million in cap penalty. Guys, that is a solid football player. Let me put that in perspective. Rashawn Gary's cap hit this year was $11 million. That's $5 million more than Rashawn Gary's cap hit was this past year for your best pass rusher. Led your team in pressures, led your team in sacks, led your team in run stops on the defensive line. All those metrics we've talked about, right? And you're going to eat $5 more million in cap on top of that. That's just wild to me. So if I'm the Browns, this is just me. Are you competing for a Super Bowl right now? No, right? Are you trying to win your division? Let's think about it. Steelers, Browns, who else is in there? The Ravens. Do you think you got a chance to compete with the Ravens, right? The Titans, obviously anybody can beat the Titans, right? Nobody remembers the Titans. You get the fun there, right? So if you approach it that way and you're looking at it like, guys, we're not competing for 2 to 3 years, why not go ahead and eat the cap and trade him and get some draft capital, right? Put them on the market. Hey, guys, bring us your best offers. That's probably the way I would approach that if I was the Cleveland Browns. But again, the Cleveland Browns always find a way to screw the pooch. I wouldn't be surprised if they just sit back and go, nope, we're not trading him. We're just going to suck with him on the roster.
What about Drew D's point here, which is kind of interesting, saying they're in position to replace Garrett with Abdul Carter.
Very good point.
And then I did see somebody was worried about, or you brought up the fact that Garrett's going to be 30, which, that is definitely a milestone of someone's career. But there's somebody who was at Chris N says, we traded for Reggie at 34, I believe. And he goes on to preface that, I know that was Reggie. So
wait a minute, he was 34 years old. Reggie was?
I thought that was, it sounded
wild. If
Chuck says the same thing in the chat, guys, maybe fact check that. Chris N says, okay, not traded. He's a free agent at 34.
Got it. Okay.
Meaning we brought him.
So we got him in well before that. We got him in 1990? What was it? 93? I think 2 or 3, right?
92 or 93. Yeah.
But when you're saying is Myles Garrett worth that? Let's show you here. This is the edge grades, right?
Josh says he was 32.
32. Yeah, there you go.
Got him in 93.
But here's the thing, man. It's I don't think it's crazy to ask, hey, is Myles Garrett as good as Reggie White was? Like, is Reggie White better? Was Reggie White better? Absolutely. But to pretend like Reggie is way up here and Myles is way down here, I don't think that's accurate. Myles Garrett, look at these grades, man. He was the second highest graded pass rusher in the league this year, right? With a 92.3. Now, when you dig deeper, look at this, Jacob. Look at these grades. So starting his rookie year, 80, 86, 86, 86, 92, 92, 93, 92.
He's not on the decline yet.
Right.
He's still somewhat ascending, dude. That's insane.
Talking about a guy who takes care of his body. Believe me, AFAM has emailed us several times going, look at Myles Garrett's body. I'm just joking. He did do that. Seriously, like he's still an elite player, the defensive player of the year, right? That level player. Now, here's my argument. Let's look at it from the Packers standpoint. Are you willing to give up a couple firsts for him? Right? I can understand the argument for that. But Khalil Mack is going to be sitting in free agency. You can sign Khalil Mack. And I know people were thinking, yeah, but Khalil Mack isn't Myles Garrett, right? Well, let's take a look back here if we can. Of course, it went AWOL on me. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull it back up and show you guys what I'm talking about here. Edge defender. Why in the world would it do that? Let's see here. Click on that. Does that reset it? Of course it does. Give me just a second here. I'm going to pull up the edge defender grades here again across the league. And I want you guys to look who's number 5 on this list right here. Mr. Khalil Mack. You see him?
Wow.
So Khalil Mack is going to be in free agency. You don't have to give up a draft pick for him, right? 90.2. Okay, well, let's look how he's fared over the years. Let's take a look here, shall we?
Jeez.
86, 91, 92, 90, 90, 86, 92, 73, 71, 91, 90 last year. And I understand he's a little bit older, right? He's a little bit older. He is, where's his age at? 33, so he's going to be 34.
I thought he was honestly older than that. If you can scroll down too real quick there, Clay. His worst year, right. He was just above the starting caliber. Well, I would argue that every single year he's a starter, bro, and not just I'm talking 5th, 6th, 1st, 12th, 2nd, 6th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd overall. That's unreal. You just convinced me. I'm cool. I'm cool.
You see what? And again, I'm not trying to like get anybody to agree with my opinion. I'm just showing all angles. We showed it from the Cleveland Browns perspective. We showed it from the Cat perspective for the Packers, and now we're looking at it like, okay, you could go get Khalil Mack for 0 draft picks unless they franchise tag him or something like that, and that's possible, right? They could do that. You could miss out on him. That's the other aspect of this. What if they decide to franchise tag Khalil Mack out in L.A., and now you missed out on that, and someone else traded for Myles Garrett? Well, now you missed out on that. Now we're back to square one, which you guys know this is not typically how Goody operates. We always look for precedent. I know it's a boring way to have these conversations, but it's the realistic way to have it. When was the last time the Packers traded for a player? I'm genuinely asking. I can't think of one.
Traded. That's not the same, obviously, as we didn't trade for Preston or Z, right?
No, signed him in free agency.
Did we trade for Woodson?
Nope, no. Signed him in free agency.
That's a free agency. Man, I can't even.
Yeah,
I can't even remember that.
That's where I'm at. So it's
did we trade for Jeff Saturday or something? Like I can't think of anything.
I think we signed him. We regretted it, but we signed him.
Yes.
Right. So again, let's see what the chat's saying here. Is anybody?
Did we trade for Jalen Smith? That was a weird situation. I was so excited that we had him.
I kind of got excited about that because he was a Notre Dame guy, but just like DeShone Kizer.
I guess it'd be, Drew D, right? Malik.
Yeah, we traded for Malik, 7th round pick, right? Okay. So is there precedent there? Comparing multiple firsts, you know what I mean? So good pull there, though, Drew. You're right. That's we traded for him. Great trade, by the way. Let's go. That was hell of a trade.
Did you by chance see as well that we're possibly going to get a compensatory pick for Preston, a 7th rounder?
It makes sense. It would make sense. Basically, well, I don't know. We traded him mid-season. I'm not sure exactly how that works. We'll see. I try not to dive too much into the compensatory picks because as soon as people think they've got it figured out, then they're wrong and they change their website real quick. And it's like, okay, we had that conversation for no reason, you know? But yeah, I'm sure we will get some comp picks in that regard. Daryl says, if Mac Attack becomes a free agent, I think it would make sense to sign him to a 1-year deal, see how he pans out. And really, Daryl, you can do that in the form of a 2-year deal to make it sweeter for him. Yep. And you can cut bait next year and take a little bit of a cap penalty. But he's probably going to want to look for a little bit of security, and I imagine Khalil Mack would want to play for a Super Bowl. But again, man, the Chargers hold the cards there. They could franchise tag him, right? Now maybe they've got somebody else that it's pretty much common knowledge they're going to franchise tag. I don't follow them close enough, but it's an interesting conversation, man. It's pretty cool that all of a sudden just bang, trade talk went crazy today, right? So there is the Myles Garrett portion. We hit the contract as well. So I'm going to pull that off to the side here so we still got it if we need it. Let me close that out. And let's talk about a little Cooper Kupp here, Jacob. Obviously, he's in the news as well. So let me see if I can get back to my Twitter account, which is not that. Give me just a second here. All right, here we go. So the other news that broke, well, first of all, you gotta tip your cap to our boy Roger Goodell saying, this cracked me up. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the league does not show favoritism towards the Chiefs. Quote, it's a ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. The NFL is not rigged or scripted. I'm not saying, you guys know, I'm not sold on it being scripted or rigged. I'm simply saying that first part, the way I responded here, Jacob, I simply responded with, well, that settles that. Here this whole time, I thought I experienced it every week. Glad the commission cleared that up. We all watched it all year long to the point where your NFL announcers are now talking.
Yes, that was the biggest head scratcher for me when they are actually willing. And for this kind of highlights what you just said. He goes, "Evening, everyone. I am so reassured about the league's credibility since Goodell confirmed that they do not show favoritism to the Chiefs."
What were we thinking? Thanks, Raj. Thank you for clearing that up. So. What's funny here is this speaks louder than all of us talking about. Man, this is crazy how many key plays always go their way when it comes to calls on the field. Is when they feel obligated to say something in the media. What he should have said is, "I'm not even going to entertain that question. Let's just move on." That's
well, and that's
what it said is we're not showing any favoritism. It's like, whoa. What that tells me, Jacob, is somebody, the owners, told him, go out there and say that. Go out there and say something.
It always reminds me of, well, like you just said, the way he answered that because usually these guys get paid so many millions of dollars to have some of the best PR and responses to these types of like baiting questions. It reminds me of like that old, like, you're in a confirmation hearing, you're like, sir, when did you stop beating your wife? Instead of saying like,
right.
What are you talking? The implication is in the question. And it's like, I feel like he was trying to get, like you said, maybe ahead of this quote unquote conspiracy theory. But I mean, we all sat there all year, man. And why? It's not just the Chiefs either. It's just, I think it's just enough people are starting to understand that this is a problem that seems to be getting away from them rather than improving as the technology gets better, as the Vegas gets more involved, as people are more growing across the world viewership. We're expanding into Europe and South America. Let's nip this in the bud before it gets too much.
Right. And on the same week too, I think it was the last day or two that the Major League Baseball fired an umpire because they found out he had a joint gambling account with a brother or a friend or something. Yeah. And it's like, boy, oh boy, Roger's going, damn that guy. Well, of course, he might be going, hey, there you go. Take a little heat off us for a second. Yeah. Anyway, let's move it along here to the Cooper Kupp talk. First of all, let me hit on Diana Rossini here. Not hit on Diana Rossini. I'm married, but hit on what she's here. Okay, one NFL GM on what a trade for Myles Garrett could look like. Probably a 1+. Can't wait for the quote. It will be 3 1s crowd. Not happening. 1 and a 2, 1 and 2 3s. Throw a player in there type thing is what they're saying. So they're thinking. And again, it was another GM. It's funny. That could have been Cleveland's GM that said that too.
Right.
They could have went right to Cleveland's GM and been like, "Hey, what do you want us to put in the media that you're willing to take? Let's get the out there without putting your name on it."
Yeah.
But not going to be.
Kevin Costner is just acting a fool tonight. He's just putting out a bunch of BS.
He said, "I want David Putnam." You pancake eating mother.
You pancake eating. Yep.
All right, so there is what Diana Rossini said about the potential compensation there for trading for Myles Garrett. All right. Next here, we took a second. We did have to do this earlier. We had to take a second to roast the Eagles fan. Tell the Packers owner to get his D line in the weight room so maybe they can stop it. Talking about the tush push. Like, what a dumbass. You don't even realize that we don't have an owner. You know what I mean? If anybody finds that owner, let me know. Okay. That's why I said it seems like every other day an Eagles fan tries to up the bar of stupidity for their fan base. Truly a collection of
dipping dots.
Dipping dots. There you go. They're always finding a way to embarrass themselves, whether it's trying to harass fans leaving the stadium or saying some stupid stuff like that. I love that we're in their head, though, for sure. All right, here we go. Cooper Kupp. Ari Mirov at My Sports Update over on X says, breaking. The Rams informed wide receiver Cooper Kupp that they will be working with him this offseason on a trade. His time in LA is set to end. All right. And then, of course, Cooper Kupp put out a video here, just a little bit of music playing. I think there was somebody talking to, but here is what he said to the fan base. He said, I was informed that the team will be seeking a trade immediately and will be working with me and my family to find the right place to continue competing for championships. I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in LA. Still, if there's one thing that I have learned over the years, there are so many things that are out of your control, but it's how you respond to these things that you will look back on and remember. I have taken so much pride in playing alongside my teammates for the LA community. So thank you for embracing my family and making this such a special place for us. 2024 began with one of the best training camps of my career. Preparations start now for 2025. Highly motivated and healthy as ever, and looking forward to playing elite football for years to come. Love you guys, but coming for it all. So class act, Jacob. Absolute class act. Now, when you remove that, what's the player worth? Right? How good of a player is he? That type of thing. On the surface, before we dive into all the numbers and everything, what do you think about Cooper Kupp being a Green Bay Packer? Because again, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur,
I was going to say,
very, very close friends that you would think they're going to have a conversation about it. I just don't. I'm not on board with it. I want to get your take
though. If this is a Madden franchise, heck yeah, let's bring him over. This is the real life, though, and the dynamic that we have in the wide receiver room, while not as promising as I once originally hoped it would be going into this year, obviously with the injuries to Watson and the back and forth with Dobbs and Tay Wicks's seemingly, I'd say regression, or at least lack of taking that step, and then just whatever's going on with Jayden Reed and we just not utilizing him the way that I wished we would. I don't know if bringing a guy like Kupp into that roster is going to fix that problem and not magnify it. I think it would definitely hurt a lot of the egos. It would make a lot of discrepancy between what those guys are getting paid. That being said, if we could guarantee that we get like 2 or 3 solid years from Cooper Kupp, and he said it in his comment there that he's convinced that he had one of his best, if not best, off seasons, especially starts. He says he's healthy as he's ever been. There is the connection, obviously, with McVay. Something about it doesn't thrill me. We can get in, like you said, the numbers of what the contract would maybe look like or whatever, and just the fact that I don't want to say that he's injury prone. He's definitely had injuries.
Mm-hmm.
It's too rich for me. Too rich, too old. Just doesn't seem like a great fit.
Too rich, too old. AFAM just perked up. He said, "What? Where can I get her number? Too rich, too old." Now, here's the thing: is he great? Is he an elite player when he's healthy and he's at the top of his game? Absolutely. We talk about you're willing to overpay for great. You're not willing to overpay for good. Well, that also applies to the draft capital you're willing to give up for a player, in my opinion. So let's look at the top receivers, right? Puka Nacua, 92.5. Nico Collins, 92.3. Mike Evans, 90.4. A.J. Brown, 90.3. You see these studs, right? There's T. Higgins. He's going to be a free agent, right? 88.2. You go on down, Chris Godwin, one of my favorite free agents this year, 86.6. I'm sorry, 86.3, right behind Justin Jefferson. Okay, so let's climb on down. Where's Cooper Kupp at? Where is Cooper Kupp?
Here we
go. Yeah, there we go. 71.4. Now, he was banged up, right? So let's look at the grades by year. 78, 77, 74, 81, 93. He was the top graded wide receiver in 2021. Then he regressed to an 86. Then he regressed to a 71. Then he regressed to a 70, or he stayed at a 71, regressed just a touch there. So to me, it feels like his best football is behind him, right? It would take, here's the thing too. What's the contract look like? First of all, we're talking about the player here. If you go back to that list, look at this. Look who's above Cooper Kupp.
I was going to say, look at that grouping. I mean, you got Watson, Dobbs, Reed.
Jayden Reed.
All within 10 spots of Kupp.
In my opinion, based off the recent information, and I'm talking about the recent information of the last 2 years, not just this year, and you got the injury concerns, right? And you tack on what's it going to cost. We'll talk about that here in a second. You're getting the same caliber of a receiver, according to PFF, than you've already got. Now, some people would say PFF isn't that important to me. Cooper Kupp's a much better player. I would agree with that. But is he great? Is he a great football player still? If he was a great football player and he's lining up on the opposite side of Puka Nacua, you would think they would have went a little bit further with that dynamic duo at wide receiver, right? Now, there's other things that come into play. Their defensive, how are they in the trenches, other aspects of the game, how they protected the football. That's an important key. I get all that. But for me, it just seems like Cooper Kupp is not that big of an upgrade, 1 year older, right? And coming off of injuries like he has been. So Drew D says Jayden Reed will be a better player next year than Cooper Kupp. Drew, there's a lot of people that would laugh at you for saying that, but I think I'm on board with you, man.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
You know what? Just the name, like, don't get me wrong. I respect Cooper Kupp and I love what he's done in his career. But to be honest, when we pull up his career PFF grades, it's like that's a decent wide receiver that had a flash, had a great year. But
good team guy too. Leader.
Good team guy too. Great rapport with his quarterback. But the thing is like, just it's that grouping right there, like you talked about. Jayden Reed at 49, Kupp at 50, Dobbs at 55, and Watson at 59. Like you said, why would we overpay to be right at the status quo? Why would we do that?
And if you remove the names, and I said you've got two choices: give up draft capital to trade for a player who had a 71.4 PFF grade, or give up zero draft capital and sign a player that was 86.3. in free agency, we all know we would all say, hey, let's go with the free agent, right? And then, you talk about Davante Adams. He's another aspect of this, as Ron Sample says, much rather Adams than Kupp, all right? Again, I don't know if you're going to have to give up draft capital for Davante. They may just cut him outright. But if Aaron's coming back, I can see them adjusting that contract where it is like 90% base salary that can be converted to signing bonus and play the cash over cap game and bring him back. But if you're just comparing the two, where's Davante Adams at on this list here? Let's see. He's 31st at a 75.8. So again, if you can get Davante Adams, like I said, no more than $15 million against the cap, I would be okay with it. But even that isn't like, wow, that's the difference maker.
Well, and look down another 5 spots to DK Metcalf, another guy that is being shopped around, younger. And, I think he's maybe been underutilized in his career, if I'm being honest. But it is have you guys heard anything about Olave by chance being –
It sounded like they were looking to shop him and possibly do the Jets so he can link back up with Garrett Wilson. But now Garrett Wilson's talking about potentially being traded. So I think it's lying season, Jacob. Yeah. There's going to be a whole lot of agent, hey, go spread this out. Let's put a filler out there and get the phone ringing, for these teams to try to put pressure. That's what happened with Aaron Rodgers. What pissed Aaron Rodgers off was the media was reporting that the Packers were in talks with the San Francisco 49ers about trading Aaron Rodgers to them. Right. And the reality was, and this really fractured Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan's friendship, was I think the 49ers called the Packers. This is what we found out later. They called the Packers. Goody said absolutely not. And then all of a sudden it leaks out in the media that the 49ers and the Packers talked. Well, who did that get leaked out by? It damn sure wasn't Goody. He knew that would make Aaron mad. So it had to be leaked out by the Niners. And then the very next year, Matt LaFleur's Packers beat the 49ers in the regular season. That's where you get that hard handshake, hard slap on the back, get the hell away from me, Bob. We were supposed to be boys. You put me in a bad spot this offseason. And that kind of started the fallout between the Packers and Aaron. Obviously that with the Davante Adams lowballing. But when you talk about Davante Adams here, though, his PFF grades starting his rookie year, 63, 59, 72, 80, 87, 88, 92, 92, 90. And then the last 2 years, 79 and now a 75. So,
dude, I bet you it's hard to find a guy that had a 5-year stretch, a 6-year stretch where he was 13th, 8th, 4th, 1st, 2nd, 4th. Dog. And even his quote unquote off years, the last 2 years, are 21st and 31st. And just to go back, guys, 2014, 2015.
Exactly.
Everybody was telling him to cut this guy. He's a joke. He's a bum. He's a bust. Get him off the team. Blah, blah, blah.
Can't catch a football. And then the next year, promise. And in 2017, oh, hell, we got a number one. 2018, elite, 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 elite. And now the reason I want to bring this up, it looks like he's on the decline now. So Ron Sample, like he says here, much rather Adams than Kupp. I can understand that argument. I can understand it. I think I'm almost all the way out on Tay unless it's a very team-friendly deal. If it's something that, like I said, 10 to 15 million range, and then you could take that, guarantee quite a bit of it, spread it out over the duration of a couple voidable years where it doesn't impact you right now. And then the hit, let's say you spread a $12 million contract out over 3 years. It's a $4 million cap hit each year. That's not going to hurt you. And then when he's off the roster, if it only lasts 1 year, you got $8 million that accelerates. You can make that up. I'm showing you guys all offseason. We got 6 contracts we can restructure and free up somewhere between $30 and $50 million if we want to. And I'm not saying we will, but it's going to be interesting though. And again, with Cooper Kupp, let's go back to that real quick. Let me get this off the screen and let's look at his contract and talk about what it would cost, because I feel like the majority of us in here, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, the majority of us think, let's just pass on Cooper Kupp. Here is his contract. It's much different than Myles Garrett in the optional aspect, right? So his is a much more traditional contract and kind of how the Packers like to do business. In 2025, this year, a salary of $12.5 million. He's got a signing bonus of $4 million. The roster bonus is what you want to key in on. So for Cooper Kupp, you're looking at 12.5 plus 7.5 if he makes a roster, and of course he will. So you're looking at a $20 million cap hit is roughly what that would be. Okay, so you're looking at a $20 million cap hit if you trade for Cooper Kupp and nothing happens with the contract. And I think it was Adam Schefter, I believe, that tweeted out the details. He said, now that the Rams have said they will look to trade Cooper Kupp, here is the cost. If Kupp is traded, his new team would inherit $20 million salary. Bang. In 2025, that's a $7.5 million roster bonus plus $12.5 million base salary, and $19.85 million in 2026, unless his contract is renegotiated. So once again, if you look at this contract and exactly how it's structured here, if you were to trade for him and the contract stays exactly the same, in 2026, his salary would be 14.8 and the roster bonus would be $5 million. That's where Adam Schefter is getting the 19.8 million. Now, if you restructure that contract, obviously to make it more team friendly, you can play cash over cap. You can convert base salary and roster bonus to signing bonus, write him a check on the spot, and you can save some cap off the backside of that contract. So, Drew D, no way in heck I am paying basically $20 million per year. I'm with you. Again, at this stage in Cooper Kupp's career, you're overpaying for good. You're not overpaying for great, in my opinion. So that's why I know it gets exciting and Twitter blows up and if you're one of those fans that you're hearing my voice and you're like, man, I'm on board with getting Miles, I'm on board with getting Cooper, and nobody's telling you how to fan here, I promise. We're just laying out all the different avenues of how this thing could play out. And for me, as boring as it sounds, I think I'm just kind of sticking where I'm at right now, man. So anything else you want to add to the Cooper Kupp talk there, Jacob, at all? And do those contract numbers make sense?
Yeah, contract numbers make sense. I just, to me, it doesn't make sense. You know, it was very intriguing when you get all these clickbait stuff going out and you start thinking of just the name and being in a jersey and, you know, how cool it would be. Like I said, it's Madden. You're thinking like in the Madden brain. You're like, man, this would be so cool. But then you take a step back and you realize what that does to the books, to the locker room, to the fan base, to the progression of the guys that are coming up from underneath them.
Bingo.
I don't, when you put all those factors together, what do we call them? Progress stoppers, right?
That's right. That's Bill Parcells 101. It's a progress stopper.
And we just saw like an actual diagram or a history of what happens when you sleep on a guy for 2 years, quote unquote, Davante Adams, who let's compare him with a Dontavian Wicks, who people did say, one, he had drop issues, but he was a crazy good route runner. And you're like, we could see this guy as possibly taking that next step. Well, what happened? We're going into year 3 with Dontavian. All right. I would hate to think that we let history repeat itself in theory, and we're going to let a guy walk or force a guy out who could maybe take that step from being a 50 to a 60 graded PFF guy to immediately into an elite guy for the next 10 years. You know,
we just talked about it, man. We said Davante Adams, right? Where was he at? 30? Davante Adams 31. Over his career, his first 2 years in the league, 63, and then he fell to a 59, right? So that was Davante Adams the first 2 years in the league. Let's go down to our boy Dontavian Wicks real quick. See what he's looking like. Oh, looky here. His rookie year, a 77, and this year, a 65.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Everybody calm down. Let's calm down.
Man, Turtles, Dante Wicks, baby.
That's it, baby. Don Juan Wicks. Nah, his mother, an absolute sweetheart. Man, we got to meet his mom and his cousin at the game in Tennessee. They sat right in front of my sister-in-law, who was like 5 rows in front of us. And I looked down. I think it might have been Emilio that pointed out. Somebody pointed out and said, look at all those Wicks jerseys. That's got to be family, right? And I text Brandon. I said, hey, that lady behind you, I said, you want to be a weirdo? That's how I started it with. I said, you want to be a weirdo? Ask that lady behind you if she's related to Dontavian Wicks. And then she did. We were watching her, and then she stood up and went, come down here. So we went down and got to meet her, took a picture with her and everything. That's She's awesome. Sweet. Awesome lady. Awesome family. So, but yeah, when it comes to Tay Wicks, you got 2 more years. He's going to be on the team for 2 more years. I think they see it that way, right? And I know the hands were an issue at times, but so were Davante Adams, you know. Yeah. And that's again, if you can get Davante Adams for pennies on the dollar, if you can get him for a very team-friendly deal, hey, look, come back, play in Green Bay a couple years, I'm on board. Not to the tune of what his salary currently is. If he thinks he's going to get $30 million out of the Packers, I want no part of it. Again, my cutoff is 15. Because if you do get Davante Adams in there working with Dontavian Wicks a little bit, that is a dream come true.
That's true.
Yeah, the way Davante rebounded from 2 rough years when he first came in the league, and then became one of the best route runners, then developed his hands and the laid hands and just the understanding of the game. The guy that, guys, he got so damn good in Green Bay that one of the best stories that's told about Davante Adams was, I think it was an Arizona game. It was early in his career, but it was when Davante became Davante. Aaron gave him a look, threw a back shoulder throw, incomplete. They said Davante came back to the huddle and looked Aaron right in the eye, said, throw it again, but this time give me a better ball. Everybody in the huddle went, oh, damn. And, you know, and this is people like the dog Rodgers, like he's a selfish dude. You know how Rodgers responded? That's what I've been looking for.
He went, hell yeah.
That's the guy I need. Yep. That's it. I'm telling you, man. Because iron sharpens iron. And when you get someone who's raising their game like Aaron did for so many years, and you see a guy raise up with you, that's what you're looking for. That's why it's not working with Garrett Wilson, because Garrett Wilson's over going, well, yeah, I could have done this, and I was open there. And Aaron's going, bud, listen, this is probably my last year. Like, we ain't got time to have a conversation about this. We're either doing it this way or we're not doing it at all, you know? And again, he can be an a-hole. I got you. So, yeah, I tell you what, man.
I think that's an unfathomable, unquantifiable thing. We've talked about like the emotional part of a team, but like when Rodgers and Tay were at that level, you know how many times you watch it where he comes up and you see Rodgers go, and he has those wide eyes and he just looks at him, and you see him, they both nod, and it was like he doesn't even need to throw an audible. There's no can't. Those two looking at each other, literally an unspoken communication where he could, and I don't know how they did it. I mean, they weren't always like the stop back shoulder throw. They weren't always like a post, you know, it was like they knew exactly what the other one was thinking on that specific play. And I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback rapport that specific in Green Bay. Yeah, you know, Brett used to just kind of be like, Sterling's there, right. He'd be like, Robert's there.
And anybody who watched him back then, Brett got better after Sterling was no longer on the Packers. And it wasn't that Sterling wasn't what I think is a Hall of Fame player. It's that Brett now had to start reading defense as opposed to screw it, Sterling's over there somewhere, right?
What's that clip where he's like, "What's the nickelback?" Or what?
Yeah, that's the best. That's
just
the best.
Brought in another DB. Oh, I just say that.
Yeah, they literally say, you know, I keep hearing them say nickel, this and that. And I asked Ty Detmer, I say, Ty, what are they talking about? Nickel? Yeah, nickel's in. He went, you serious? He went, yeah. He went, it's nickel. It's 5D. It means they subbing out a backer and bringing in a DB, 5 DBs, nickel. He went, who the hell cares? That's what Brett who the hell cares? I'm just going to throw it 110 mile in air and thread it between 3 defenders, and we'll get this touchdown and get out of here. So, all right. So we covered that pretty extensively. I think we got everything we wanted to get here on the show. Let's go to the chat real quick. Andy Watkins says, I feel like Reed needs to be utilized differently and get him going. He could be a cup for us next season. And I think it's a great point, Andy. And the other thing that we've got to take into consideration now that the smoke settled from the season, guys, we ran the hell out of football. Yeah, everybody was trying to look for a reason of why Jayden Reed fell off. Jayden Reed's bad. Jayden Reed exceeded every stat that he had his rookie year, except for touchdowns and I think 1 or 2 other columns. He had more yards. He averaged more yards per catch, all of that, right? He was a dynamic player. But down the stretch, he didn't get as many. He had like 20-some fewer targets too. Well, we were running the heck out of the ball with Josh Jacobs. And this is what I'm talking about. Like last year, we need to run the ball. This year we run the ball. What's wrong with Jayden Reed? Like, again, to me, it was the under center play action that took a step back because Jordan wasn't completely healthy. That's it. The knee wasn't good all year long, and it was harder for them to get under center and run those boots, you know, as often. 2-0 for this. Evening, everyone. I am so reassured about the league's credibility. Oh, you already hit that one, didn't you? Yeah. My bad. Talking about Roger Goodell just reaffirming for us here. What a knucklehead. Robert Zimmerman says, your content is rich. Oh, this might not be good. Your content is rich, and no one else is doing the things you are to educate us knuckleheads. Thank you. Hey, Robert, thank you so much, man. We appreciate the kind words. We're all learning together, man. We're not trying to educate anybody. We're just simply, let's walk through the information together, and you guys throw ideas in the chat. And, again, this is a group effort, but we appreciate the kind words there, man, for sure. Jacob, you got anything else, man?
Honestly, no. I mean, I thought we did a great job of kind of highlighting that things that are maybe flashy, certain names, certain, situations. But when you dive into the numbers, there really has to be that kind of perfect fit. And hopefully we've done a good job of like if there is a deal struck or made, we know kind of more on the front end what that entails as far as just the expectation, the money attached, what that means for the locker room. So I think this was a good exercise. It's just is probably discouraging for a few, fans that are like, I want either a Tay, I want a God, whatever your flavor of the week is as far as what you want to do. I can't help but go back to I want to draft and develop. I just do. I don't like making these big free agent acquisitions. One, because like we talked about, we just don't do it often. It's just not something that the Packers organization, I mean, in my lifetime, very few times I remember us doing that. Hey, Larry Fitzgerald, let's go. He could probably still ball, dude.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah, for me, it's about putting the right people in place. When you look up, we've got to get more. We got to get more veteran leadership in the building. I really feel like that impacted us down the stretch. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm tired of being the youngest team. I'm cool with being a bottom 5 youngest team, right? Meaning top, I guess technically top 5 youngest team. I'm cool with that. I want to be younger rather than older, but there comes a point where you got to accept the fact that there's no team in the history of the league that was the youngest roster and won a Super Bowl. Let's take that next step. And where are the holes that we need to fill? That's why, to me, Khalil Mack makes a lot of sense, right?
Yes.
Go get Khalil Mack. Go get Chris Godwin. That's a lot of money, guys. I think they're gonna have a lot of attention on the market if both of them make it to the market. Again, franchise tag is going to be coming up. I'm trying to think when it's got to be applied. It's actually right around the corner. We're sitting at February the 3rd right now, and the ticker's rolling through. Let's read the calendar off for everybody real quick. February 9th is going to be the Super Bowl, which I got to be honest, I probably won't even be watching, man. I probably won't. That's a story for another day. February 18th, teams may designate franchise or transition players. So starting on the 18th, 15 days from now, is when teams can hit the franchise tag on these players. Okay, so February 20th, around that time, look for the Packers to be restructuring contracts. Then February 24th, we get the scouting combine. We're going to be doing a lot of live streams during the combine. It's going to be an absolute blast. March the 4th is the deadline for teams to designate the franchise tag. So you got all the way up till March the 4th before teams have to put the franchise tag on a player, right? Then March 10th, about 6 days later, free agency will officially begin. And then March 12th, when I say I think it's the unofficial start, then March 12th, 4 p.m. Eastern, is the beginning of the new league year and free agent signing period. That's when they can actually sign. And then, of course, March 30th through April 2nd is the annual league meeting, and then we'll get into April. Obviously, we close in on the draft, all that good stuff. So again, we got to let the market kind of settle in, see who the cap casualties are going to be, see where the franchise tags are going to be slapped, and go from there. But I'm on board with adding maybe two great pieces in free agency. I really am. The problem is there's no interior defensive tackles that I feel like fit that bill. Yeah. So you're going to have to do that in the draft. That's why we focus a lot. And you can see Goody focus on it. Cornerbacks. The cornerback market doesn't look great right now in free agency. What's Goody been doing? Meeting with a lot of corners, right? Wide receiver, he's met with a lot of wide receivers. But I'm telling you, man, top of our board that he met with, Jaden Higgins. It's looking like if he's there in the second round, I would not be surprised if Goody pulls the trigger there. I would not. I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes before that, too. Had a pretty good Super Bowl week. So, Jacob, anything else, man?
No, man. There's a lot of chat just real quick about McManus.
Yeah.
What's the deal with him? Are we going to franchise that?
I'm too old for this, man. McManus is going nowhere. If Goody lets him walk into free agency,
they can't
and
do
we
that.
go with and we draft another kicker, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not buck often. I'm that dude that like Goody has forgot more about football than I will ever know. But if we're stupid enough to make that work, to let that happen again, we get what we deserve. We get what we deserve. Because that was a absolute crap show. I about said the real word. It was a crap show the last couple of years. And then you finally get it figured out, and we're going to allow $2-3 million difference in what we should offer him be the reason that we don't bring him back. True.
No, don't.
Yeah, Daryl, I'm not okay with a kicker either, but a rookie kicker either, man. That's crazy. So, All right, we're out, guys. Appreciate y'all. No show in the morning. Got a doctor's appointment. Good vibes, prayers, all that good stuff. I don't care if you pray to an orange. If you do, say a prayer for me tonight. All right. We're going to get some stuff taken care of tomorrow, get some answers, and then we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. So everybody sleep in the morning. All right, call in sick to work and sleep in. We'll do a show. We'll do a show tomorrow night. Jacob, thank you for your time, man.
Yes, sir. Go Pack, go.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
And we go.
We're out.
We're out.
Bye, guys.